The water was dark and cold around Lisa Carter as she checked her diving equipment one last time. She had been studying deep-sea creatures for 8 years, but the Mariana Trench still amazed her every time she went down. Her team was with her. Today, spread out across the research vessel Pacific Dawn, Alex Murphy was checking rock samples from yesterday's dive. Ben Rodriguez was fixing some broken equipment, and Kate Williams was talking to the main research station back on land. Lisa loved her work. The ocean held so many secrets, and she wanted to find them all. Today they were looking for new types of fish that lived in the deepest parts of the ocean. The pressure down there was so strong it could crush a person in seconds, but her diving suit kept her safe. Far above them, something watched from the darkness of space. The ship looked like a small rock floating between the stars, but it was much more than that. Inside the ship, strange beings with gray skin and large black eyes studied the humans below. They had been watching Earth for months, learning about the different types of life that lived there. Vex Talmor was the leader of these beings. His people were called Zephyrians, and they came from a planet where nothing ever hurt. Pain was something they had heard about but never felt. Their bodies were different from humans. When they got hurt, they felt nothing. When they were sad or happy, they felt nothing. They were smart, very smart, but they could not understand feelings. That was why they were here. Vex Talmor wanted to study pain. He wanted to know how it worked and why some creatures could feel it while others could not. His people had built a research station on an asteroid far from any planets. They had been taking creatures from different worlds and bringing them there to study. The humans looked interesting to Vex Talmor. He had read reports about them from other alien races. Some said humans were weak and would break easily. Others said they were strange and hard to understand. Vex Talmor wanted to find out which reports were true. Down in the ocean, Lisa finished her dive and came back to the surface. She was excited about what she had found. There were fish down there that glowed with their own light, and some had teeth bigger than her fingers. Alex helped her climb back onto the boat, and she started telling everyone about what she had seen. Kate was still on the radio when the lights in the sky appeared. At first, they looked like stars, but stars did not move that fast. The lights got bigger and brighter until everyone on the boat could see them clearly. They were ships, but not like any ships humans had ever built. Ben grabbed his camera and started taking pictures. Alex stood next to Lisa and watched the ships come closer. Kate stopped talking on the radio and came outside to see what was happening. None of them were scared yet. They thought maybe these were new military aircraft they had not heard about. The ships stopped right above their boat. They were huge, much bigger than the Pacific Dawn. Lisa could see lights blinking on the bottom of the ships, and she heard a low humming sound that made her teeth hurt. Then a bright blue light came down from the largest ship and covered their boat. Everything changed in that moment. Lisa felt her body become very light, like she was floating in water. Alex reached for her hand, but his arm moved too slowly. Ben tried to run, but his feet would not touch the ground. Kate opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. They were all floating up toward the ship. Lisa could see the ocean getting smaller below them, and she could see other boats in the distance, but those boats looked normal. The blue light was only taking their boat. She tried to understand what was happening, but her mind felt fuzzy and slow. Inside the alien ship, Vex Talmor watched the humans being brought aboard. He had done this many times before with other creatures, but he was especially curious about these four. The reports about humans were so different from each other that he did not know what to expect. His assistant, Kylanth, stood next to him and watched the humans too. Kylanth was younger than Vex Talmor and sometimes asked questions that the older researcher thought were pointless. Today, Kylanth asked why they had to take the humans away from their home to study them. Vextal Moore explained that pain was best studied in controlled conditions. They needed to test the humans in many different ways to understand how their bodies and minds worked. They could not do that if the humans stayed on their planet where other humans might try to help them. The 4 humans were put in a special room where they would sleep until they reached the research station. Vextal Moore looked at them through the clear wall and tried to imagine what it would feel like to hurt. His people had removed pain from their bodies long ago because they thought it was useless. Now he wondered if they had been wrong. The ship turned away from Earth and headed toward the asteroid where the research station waited. Inside their sleeping room, the 4 humans dreamed of the ocean and had no idea that their lives were about to change forever. Lisa woke up in a white room with no windows. Her head hurt and her mouth was dry. She sat up slowly and looked around. The walls were smooth and had no doors that she could see. There was a bed, a toilet, and a small table with water and food. On it, everything was white and clean, like a hospital room dot. She called out for Alex, Ben, and Kate, but no one answered. Her voice echoed in the small room, making her feel even more alone. She walked to the walls and pushed on them, trying to find a way out, but they were solid. She was trapped. Through speakers in the ceiling, she heard a voice speaking in a language she did not understand. The words sounded strange, with lots of clicking and whistling sounds. Then the voice spoke in English, but the words came out wrong, like someone reading from a book who did not know what the words meant. The voice told her that she was safe and that she would not be hurt badly. It said she was here to help with important research about pain and how different creatures handled it. The voice said her friends were safe too, but in different rooms. Lisa shouted questions at the ceiling, but the voice did not answer. On the other side of the wall, Vextal Moore watched Lisa through a hidden camera. He was taking notes about how she moved and what she tried to do when she woke up. Most creatures he had studied before either sat quietly and waited, or they ran around the room screaming. Lisa was different. She was looking at everything carefully, like she was trying to understand where she was and how to escape. Kylanth was watching Alex in another room. Alex had woken up and was examining the walls with his hands, running his fingers along every inch. As a geologist, Alex understood rocks and how they broke. He was looking for weak points in the walls, places where the material might crack if he hit it hard enough. In the 3rd room, Ben was doing something that surprised the Zephyrians. He had taken apart the water container and was using the pieces to make tools. Ben worked with machines all his life, and he could see that the room had air vents and lights that needed power. If he could understand how the room worked, maybe he could find a way to break it. Kate was in the 4th room, and she was doing the strangest thing of all. She was listening. Every few minutes, she would put her ear against the wall and tap on it with her fingers. She was trying to hear if her friends were nearby and trying to send them messages by tapping in patterns. Vextal Moore was very interested in these behaviors. Most creatures became scared and stopped thinking clearly when they were taken from their homes. These humans were scared too, he could tell, but they were still thinking and planning. This was not what he had expected. He decided to start the first tests. In Lisa's room, the temperature began to drop. It got colder and colder until Lisa could see her breath. She wrapped the blanket around herself and started moving around to stay warm. The Zephyrians had done this test on many creatures. Most of them just sat down and waited to freeze, but Lisa did not just wait. She took the mattress from the bed and leaned it against the wall to block the cold air from the vents. She tore strips from her clothes and wrapped them around her hands and feet. She did jumping exercises to keep her blood moving. When the cold got worse, she got angry instead of giving up Dot in Alex's room. The pressure started to increase, like he was going deep underwater without a diving suit. Alex felt the pressure pushing on his ears and chest. This was something he understood from his work with rocks underground. He lay down flat on the floor and controlled his breathing, taking slow, deep breaths like he had learned when rock climbing in high places. Ben's room started to get very hot. The temperature rose until the air shimmered, and Ben's clothes were soaked with sweat. Instead of panicking, Ben used the tools he had made to redirect some of the hot air away from where he was sitting. He wet his clothes with water from the container and put them over his head to cool down. Kate's room filled with loud, terrible noises that hurt her ears and made it hard to think. The sounds were supposed to drive creatures crazy and make them bang their heads against the walls. Kate covered her ears with pieces of her torn shirt and started humming songs from her childhood. The humming helped block out some of the noise and gave her mind something to focus on. Vextalmore watched all of this with growing confusion. These tests broke most creatures in less than an hour. The humans had been enduring them for 3 hours and were still finding new ways to fight back. Instead of getting weaker, they seemed to be getting more determined. Kylanth noticed something else. When the test started, all 4 humans began tapping on their walls in the same patterns Kate had been using. Somehow, they were talking to each other through the walls. They were sharing information about their tests and helping each other stay strong. This was impossible according to Zephyrian research. Creatures in pain were supposed to think only about themselves. They were not supposed to help others when they were suffering. Yet these humans were doing exactly that. Vextalmore made the tests harder. He made Lisa's room even colder, Alex's pressure even stronger, Ben's heat even worse, and Kate's noise even louder. But the humans kept fighting. Lisa started doing harder exercises to make more heat. Alex used meditation techniques he had learned from mountain climbers. Ben found more ways to cool his air. Kate started singing louder songs. After 6 hours, Vextalmore stopped the tests. He needed to understand what he was seeing. These humans were not just surviving his experiments. They were learning from them and getting better at handling pain. This had never happened before. He looked at his notes and realized that everything he thought he knew about pain might be wrong. Maybe pain did not just break creatures down. Maybe it could make them stronger. The idea confused him because Zephyrians had never experienced anything like it. In their rooms, the 4 humans were tired and hurt, but they were not broken. They had learned something important about their captors. The aliens were smart, but they did not understand humans at all. That gave the humans hope, and hope was something the aliens had not planned for. Vextalmore was angry. The humans had survived tests that should have broken them completely. He decided that physical pain was not enough. He needed to attack their minds instead. Zephyrian research showed that creatures cared about other members of their species. If he could make the humans think their friends were dead, they would give up fighting. He separated the humans into different parts of the research station. Lisa was moved to a room far from the others, where she could not hear their tapping messages anymore. Alex was put in a room that was completely silent. Ben was placed in a room with no light at all. Kate was moved to a room where the walls showed moving pictures of scary things. And Vextalmore started his new experiment. In Lisa's room, speakers played the sound of Alex screaming in terrible pain. The screaming went on for hours, getting worse and worse until it stopped completely. Then a voice told Lisa that Alex was dead and that she would be next. But Lisa knew something the aliens did not expect. She knew Alex's voice very well because they had worked together for 3 years. The screaming in the speakers sounded like Alex, but it was not quite right. The words he screamed were things Alex would never say. Lisa realized the aliens were playing fake sounds to trick her. In Alex's room, They showed him pictures of Lisa being hurt by terrible machines. The pictures looked very real, and they showed Lisa crying and begging for help. But Alex noticed that Lisa was wearing different clothes in the pictures than she had been wearing when they were captured. He also saw that her hair was different. The aliens had made fake pictures. Ben's room filled with the smell of burning, and voices told him that Kate had been burned alive. They played sounds of fire and screaming. But Ben had fought real fires before as an engineer, and he knew what burning people actually smelled like. This smell was wrong. It was like burning plastic, not like burning skin and hair dug in Kate's room. They played recordings of Lisa, Alex, and Ben saying they hated her and blaming her for getting them all captured. The voices said terrible things about Kate and told her she was useless. But Kate knew her friends' voices better than anyone, and these recordings had small mistakes in them. The fake Lisa used words the real Lisa never used. The fake Alex pronounced some words differently than the real Alex did. The humans figured out they were being tricked, but they had to be careful. They could not let the aliens know they had discovered the lies. Instead, they pretended to be sad and scared while they made plans to fight back. Lisa started paying attention to everything in her room. She noticed that the walls had small lines. In them were different pieces fit together. She realized the room was built like a puzzle, with parts that could be taken apart, if she could find the right way to do it. Alex used his knowledge of rocks and pressure to understand how the station was built. He felt vibrations in the floor when machines turned on and off. He learned the schedule of when different systems worked. He discovered that the artificial gravity in his room got weaker at certain times. Ben found out that his room's lights were controlled by a computer system that had patterns. He started paying attention to when the lights changed and realized there was a maintenance cycle that happened every 12 hours. During the maintenance cycle, some of the wall panels became loose. Kate discovered that the scary pictures on her walls were controlled by someone watching her. When she looked afraid, the pictures got worse. When she looked angry, they changed to different scary things. She realized someone was trying to learn what made her most scared. The humans also found new ways to communicate. Lisa learned that if she made certain movements, the vibrations went through the station's structure to Alex's room. Alex figured out how to make sounds by hitting the walls in ways that sent messages to Ben. Ben discovered that the electrical systems in his room were connected to Kate's room, and he could make her lights flicker in patterns. Using these new ways to talk, the humans shared what they had learned. They told each other about the fake deaths and the lies. They shared information about how their rooms worked and when the maintenance cycles happened. Most importantly, they made a plan. During this time, other alien creatures in the research station started noticing the humans. There were beings that looked like giant insects, creatures that were like living rocks, and animals that were made of pure energy. All of these creatures had given up hope long ago. They just sat in their rooms and waited for the experiments to end. But when they heard the humans tapping messages and refusing to give up, some of them started to remember what it felt like to fight back. A few of the alien prisoners started tapping their own messages. Others began refusing to cooperate with the tests. Kylanth noticed these changes and told Vextal more about them. The research leader was concerned because his other subjects were supposed to be broken and obedient. If they started fighting again, it would ruin years of research data. Vextal Moore decided the humans were too dangerous to the other experiments. He would have to break them quickly before they caused more problems. He designed new tests that would be worse than anything he had used before, but he made a mistake. In his anger, he started thinking of the humans as enemies instead of research subjects. He wanted to hurt them now, not just study them. This change in his thinking would make him sloppy and give the humans the chance they needed. The humans felt the change too. The experiments became more cruel and personal. Instead of scientific tests, they were now facing torture, but this made them more determined than ever. They were not just fighting for themselves anymore. They were fighting for all the other creatures trapped in this terrible place. Lisa looked at the puzzle-like walls of her room and started working on taking them apart. Alex used the weak gravity periods to practice moving in ways that would help him escape. Ben waited for the next maintenance cycle to grab the tools he needed. Kate prepared to use what she had learned about her watchers against them. The real battle was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what humans could do when they stopped being afraid and started getting angry. Vextal Moore had decided to try his most powerful experiment. He believed that humans cared about each other, and he wanted to use that caring to break them. He would make each human watch the others suffer real pain. He thought that seeing their friends hurt would destroy them faster than any torture he could inflict directly. He brought all 4 humans to a large room with glass walls between sections. Lisa could see Alex, Ben, and Kate, but they were separated and could not touch each other. Each person was strapped to a chair with machines around them that could cause different types of pain. Speakers let them hear each other talk. Vextal Moore's voice came from everywhere at once. He explained his new experiment in his broken English. Each human would have to choose between suffering themselves or watching one of their friends suffer. Instead, if Lisa chose to protect Alex, then Alex would be safe, but Lisa would feel terrible pain. If she chose to protect herself, then Alex would be tortured while she watched. The alien researcher expected the humans to become selfish when faced with this choice. All of his data suggested that creatures would choose their own safety over others when the pain became bad enough. He started with simple tests to see how the humans would react. He told Lisa she could stop Alex from being burned by electricity if she agreed to have her fingers crushed. Lisa immediately said yes. Alex shouted at her not to do it, but she ignored him. When the machine started crushing her fingers, Lisa screamed, but did not ask for it to stop. Next, Vextal Moore told Alex he could save Ben from being cut by sharp blades if Alex let the machines break his arm. Alex agreed without hesitation. Ben begged him not to do it, but Alex told him that broken bones heal and that friends take care of each other. When it was Ben's turn, he was told he could stop Kate from being burned with hot metal if he let the machines fill his lungs with water until he almost drowned. Ben said yes immediately. Kate cried and told him she was not worth it, but Ben said she was wrong and that he would rather die than watch her suffer. Kate was given the hardest choice of all. She could stop all 3 of her friends from being tortured at the same time, but only if she agreed to experience every pain they had just endured plus more. She said yes before Vextal Moore even finished explaining the test. The Zephyrian researcher was completely confused. Every choice was supposed to make the humans think about themselves first. Instead, each human was trying to save the others, even when it meant worse suffering for themselves. This was not how pain was supposed to work. Kylanth watched the experiment and felt something strange happening in his mind. Zephyrians did not feel emotions, but watching the humans sacrifice themselves for each other created new thoughts in his head. He started to wonder if the humans were better than his own people in some important way. Vextal Moore made the tests harder, thinking the humans would eventually choose themselves over their friends. He offered Lisa a chance to go free if she let Alex, Ben, and Kate be killed. Lisa told him to go to hell. He offered Alex his freedom in exchange for letting the others be tortured forever. Alex said he would rather be tortured himself. Every offer was refused. Every choice was made to protect the others. The humans seemed to get stronger when they were helping their friends, not weaker. They encouraged each other, told jokes to distract from the pain, and shared stories about good times they had experienced together. This display of love and friendship was something Vextal Moore could not understand. His people had removed such feelings from themselves long ago because they thought emotions made creatures weak and stupid. But these humans were using their emotions to become stronger and smarter. Other alien prisoners in the research station could see the experiment through their room windows. They watched the humans choose pain to save each other, and it reminded them of feelings they had forgotten. Some of the aliens started crying for the first time since they had been captured. Others began feeling angry about what was being done. To them, Kylanth felt the strange new thoughts getting stronger. He started to understand that the humans had something his people had lost. They had the ability to care about others more than themselves. This caring made them willing to endure anything, which made them much stronger than the Zephyrians had ever imagined. The assistant researcher began to question everything he had been taught. His people believed that removing emotions and pain had made them superior to other species. But watching the humans, he wondered if they had actually made themselves weaker by getting rid of those things. Vextal Moore increased the intensity of the torture, becoming desperate to find the breaking point of human loyalty. He made the machines cause worse and worse pain, but the humans never stopped trying to save each other. Lisa's hands were broken, but she still tried to reach toward her friends. Alex's arm was twisted, but he still shouted encouragement to the Chi. Others. Ben could barely breathe, but he still made jokes to make Kate smile. Kate was covered in burns, but she still told the others how proud she was to know them. Finally, something broke, but it was not what Vextal Moore expected. The thing that broke was Kylanth's faith in Zephyrian superiority. The assistant researcher looked at the humans and realized they were not the primitive creatures his people thought they were. They were something better than Zephyrians. They were creatures who could love each other more than they loved themselves. Kylanth made a decision that no Zephyrian had ever made before. He decided that what his people were doing was wrong, and he was going to stop it. He did not know how yet, but he knew he could not watch this anymore. The humans noticed the change in Kylanth. Kate, who had learned some of the Zephyrian language, started talking to him directly. She told him that he could choose to be different from the others. She said that every creature had the ability to choose between right and wrong, and that choosing right was what made someone truly intelligent. Vextal Moore was too focused on his failed experiment to notice what was happening with his assistant. He could not understand why the humans would not break, and it was making him angry in a way that Zephyrians were not supposed to feel. His perfect scientific mind was starting to crack under the pressure of something he could not explain. The humans had won the battle of wills, but they did not know it yet. They had done something that would change everything, not just for themselves, but for every creature in the research station. They had taught an alien how to feel compassion, and that alien was about to help them escape. Kylanth could not sleep after watching the humans sacrifice themselves for each other. His mind was full of new thoughts that hurt in a strange way. He had never felt anything like this before, and he did not understand what was happening to him. All night he walked around the research station, trying to make the feelings go away, but they only got stronger the next morning. Kylanth was supposed to check on the human prisoners and make sure their rooms were working properly. His mind was so confused with new thoughts that he forgot to lock one of the maintenance hatches in Ben's room. It was a small mistake, but it would change everything. Ben noticed the unlocked hatch immediately. He had been watching the maintenance cycles for weeks, and he knew this hatch was always locked tight. He waited until the cameras were looking in other directions, then carefully opened the hatch and crawled inside. The maintenance tunnels were dark and narrow, but Ben was used to working in small spaces. He followed the tunnels and found that they connected to all the prisoner rooms. More importantly, they connected to the main computer systems that controlled the entire research station. Ben crawled through the tunnels to Alex's room and quietly opened the maintenance hatch there. Alex was surprised to see his friend crawling out of the wall, but he quickly understood what was happening. Together, they went to get Lisa and Kate. The four humans were together again for the first time since they had been captured. They hugged each other carefully because they were all still hurt from the experiments. Lisa's hands were bandaged. Alex's arm was in a sling. Ben had trouble breathing, and Kate had burns on her arms. But they were all alive, and they were together. Ben led them through the tunnels to where the main computers were kept. Lisa used her scientific knowledge to understand how the alien systems worked. Kate used the Zephyrian language she had learned to read the computer screens. Alex used his knowledge of structures to find the weak points in the station. They discovered that the research station held over 50 different alien species in prison. Some had been there for years, and some had only arrived recently. All of them were being used for experiments about pain and suffering. The humans realized they had to save everyone, not just themselves. Lisa found the controls for all the prison rooms and started unlocking doors. Alex located the station's communication systems and began sending messages to the alien prisoners, telling them they were being rescued. Ben found the power controls and started shutting down the torture machines. Kate used the speakers to talk to the other prisoners in their own languages, telling them to be ready to fight. The first aliens to escape were the ones closest to the computer room. They were weak from being imprisoned for so long, but they were angry and ready for revenge. The humans organized them into groups and gave each group specific jobs. Some aliens were good at breaking things, so they were sent to destroy the torture equipment. Others were good at fighting, so they were sent to stop the Zephyrian guards. Vextel Moore was in his office studying the data from yesterday's failed experiment when the alarm started ringing. At first, he thought it was just a system malfunction, but then he saw on his screens that prisoners were escaping from everywhere at once. He could not understand how this was possible. The research leader tried to contact his guards, but many of them were already being attacked by freed prisoners. He tried to lock down the station, but the humans had taken control of the main computers. He tried to call for help from other Zephyrian ships, but Kate had blocked all outgoing communications. Alex led a group of the strongest alien prisoners to the station's structural supports. Using his knowledge of how buildings could be weakened, he showed them where to hit the walls and ceilings to cause the most damage. Soon, parts of the research station were starting to crack and collapse. Lisa took the scientific equipment that the Zephyrians had been using to study pain and turned it against the researchers themselves. For the first time in their lives, the Zephyrian scientists experienced the fear and confusion that their prisoners had felt. They did not know how to handle these new sensations. Ben found the station's life support systems and started changing them to make the Zephyrians uncomfortable. He made some areas too hot, others too cold, and some too loud. The aliens who had never felt discomfort before were completely overwhelmed by these simple changes. Kate used the station's communication system to broadcast messages in the Zephyrian language throughout the facility. She told the Zephyrian staff about the doubt that Kylant had been feeling, and she asked them if they thought what they were doing was right. Some of the Zephyrians started to wonder if their research was actually wrong. Vextal Moore tried to regain control by threatening to kill all the escaped prisoners. But the humans had learned something important about their captors. The Zephyrians did not really understand violence because they had never felt the emotions that drive creatures to fight. When faced with truly angry prisoners who are not afraid to die, the Zephyrian guards did not know what to do. The research leader became more and more desperate as he lost control of his station. He had spent his whole life believing that Zephyrians were superior to all other species because they did not feel pain or emotions. Now he was experiencing fear for the first time, and it was destroying his confidence in everything he had believed. Kylant found Vextal Moore in his office. shaking and confused. The assistant researcher told his leader that he had helped the humans escape because he had learned that what they were doing was wrong. Vextol Moore could not understand how Kylanth could betray their own species for primitive creatures. But Kylanth explained that the humans had taught him something important. They had shown him that the ability to care about others was not a weakness. It was the greatest strength any creature could have. The Zephyrians had made themselves weaker. By removing love and compassion from their lives, the research station was falling apart around them. Freed prisoners were destroying everything they could find. The Zephyrian staff was either hiding or trying to escape. The humans had taken control of all the important systems. In just a few hours, the most secure research facility in Zephyrian. Space had been completely defeated by creatures the aliens had thought were weak and primitive. Lisa found Vextol Moore and Kylanth in the office. She looked at the research leader, who had tortured her and her friends, and instead of anger, she felt something like pity. She could see that he was experiencing emotions for the first time and did not know how to handle them. She made him an offer that would change both of their species forever. Lisa stood in front of Vextol Moore and saw a broken creature who was feeling fear for the first time in his life. The research station was collapsing around them, and freed prisoners were hunting down every Zephyrian they could find. She could have let them tear him apart, but that was not what humans did. Instead, she offered him something he did not expect out. She told him that the humans would stop the destruction and save the remaining Zephyrians, but only if he agreed to learn what he had been putting his prisoners through. She wanted him to experience every type of pain and fear that he had inflicted on others, not as punishment, but as education. She believed that once he truly understood suffering, he would become a better person. Vextol Moore was terrified, but he was also curious. His whole life had been dedicated to studying pain without understanding it. Now he had a chance to learn what all his research had really been about. He agreed to Lisa's terms, not knowing that this decision would change his entire species forever. Lisa called to the freed prisoners over the station's speakers. She told them that the fighting would stop now and that they were going to do something better than revenge. They were going to teach their captors how to be better creatures. Some of the prisoners wanted to continue fighting, but most of them trusted the humans who had saved them. Kate contacted the Zephyrian fleet that was approaching the research station. She had learned enough of their language to explain what had happened and what the humans wanted. The Zephyrian commanders were confused by the offer, but they agreed to negotiate rather than fight a battle they might not win. Over the next few days, the humans set up a controlled experiment unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They used the Zephyrians' own equipment to create safe but realistic simulations of pain, fear, sadness, and other emotions. Vextol Moore and his research team volunteered to experience these feelings under careful supervision. The first time Vextol Moore felt real physical pain, he collapsed and cried like a child. The sensation was so overwhelming that he could not think about anything else. Alex sat with him and explained how humans learn to live with pain by finding meaning in it. He told Vextol Moore that pain taught creatures to be careful, to help each other, and to appreciate good times when they came. When Vextol Moore experienced fear, he begged for it to stop after only a few minutes. Ben stayed with him and explained how fear could make creatures smarter by teaching them to plan ahead and avoid danger. He said that brave creatures were not the ones who never felt afraid, but the ones who did what was right, even when they were terrified. The hardest lesson came when Vextol Moore was made to feel sadness. The emotion hit him like a wave and made him understand how much pain he had caused to thousands of creatures over the years. Kate sat with him while he cried and told him that sadness was the price of caring about others, but that it was worth paying because love made life meaningful. Lisa taught him about empathy, the ability to understand how others felt. She showed him that when creatures could feel each other's pain, they naturally wanted to help instead of hurt. She explained that this was why humans had been willing to suffer to save their friends, and why they were now willing to help their former enemies. The other Zephyrian researchers went through the same learning process. Each one discovered that emotions were not weaknesses to be eliminated, but tools that helped creatures live better lives together. They began to understand why their research had been wrong from the beginning. Kylanth helped translate between the humans and his people during this process. He had been the first Zephyrian to feel compassion, and now he helped others learn to feel it too. He became a bridge between the two species, helping them understand each other. The freed alien prisoners watched this process with amazement. They had never seen creatures voluntarily experience pain in order to become better people. Many of them decided to stay and help teach the Zephyrians about their own species and cultures. After several weeks, Vextal Moore was completely changed. The emotions he had learned to feel made him see the universe in a new way. He realized that his people had made a terrible mistake when they removed pain and emotions from their lives. They had become intelligent, but not wise, advanced, but not good. He wrote a new research paper that would be read throughout Zephyrian space. In it, he explained that consciousness was not just about being smart, but about being able to care. He said that species who could suffer were actually more advanced than those who could not, because suffering taught creatures how to love and help each other. The research station was converted into a learning center where different species could share knowledge about consciousness, emotions, and the meaning of life. Representatives from many worlds came to study there, and the Zephyrians became students instead of teachers. Lisa and her team were offered the chance to return to Earth immediately, but they chose to stay for several months to help set up the new learning center. They wanted to make sure that what had happened to them would never happen to anyone else. When they finally returned to Earth, they brought with them new knowledge about alien species and new friendships that would last forever. They also brought proof that humans had something special to offer the galaxy. Their ability to find strength in suffering and to choose love over hate made them valuable allies to any species wise enough to befriend them. Vextal Moore became the first Zephyrian ambassador to Earth. He spent the rest of his life studying human culture and teaching his people about the importance of emotions. He never forgot the lessons he had learned from 4 humans who refused to let pain break their spirits. Kyle Neff established the first Zephyrian School for Emotional Education, where young Zephyrians could learn to feel compassion and empathy. The curriculum was based on human examples of love, friendship, and sacrifice. The story spread throughout the galaxy about the species that turned their captors into friends through the power of forgiveness and education. Many alien races began to see humans not as primitive creatures, but as teachers who could help them become better than they had ever imagined possible. Years later, when other alien species encountered humans for the first time, they did so with respect and curiosity rather than contempt. They had heard the story of Lisa Carter and her team, and they knew that these strange creatures from the small blue planet had something important to teach anyone wise enough to listen. Greatest victory was not that the humans had escaped or defeated their enemies, but that they had transformed their enemies into friends, and in doing so, had made the entire galaxy a little bit better.